Hello, and welcome to the Pillars of Salt LARP Education Class number 3. This is going to be the second part of our discipline tricks. It is going to go through a few of the different disciplines that we were unable to catch to last time. Last time we were able to do assault and control powers, and this time we're going to do defense and support. The main concept of defense powers obviously are to reduce damage or to mitigate situations. And the idea of support powers are primarily to give you allies or give you information. Okay? Now, let's hop. Does anyone want to ask any questions before we begin? As you can see now, we actually have access to the Twitch chat on the screen, so people can ask questions. I got this set up, and hopefully we'll be able to actually have it next time. We'll be able to pop it up inside the top so people will be able to ask their questions while we're going through the entire PowerPoints. But it looks like we're doing good, so let's hop back into our document. Okay, the first defense power we're going to talk about is fortitude. Now, before we even get into this, they are very clear that this is per strike and not per round. This is a bit of a change from old MES. It's a bit of a change from a few other things. It's actually very close to tabletop, but it really racks up the power of what Fortitude's able to do. I can't have 5 guys all hitting me at the exact same moment, if the rules allowed, and mitigate damage in that way. It really is, I must cause a piercing damage or there's nothing. Okay? Now, if you are stamina focused, you will gain an additional health level for every wound category which you first purchase Fortitude. I know that doesn't make any sense. Every wound category. So you're going to have them for an extra one for healthy. You're going to have an extra one for wounded. You'll presume that you're going to have your levels that go down through there. Now, level 1 here is endurance. You ignore pain and you're immune to torture and don't suffer wound penalties. Now, immune to torture, that's kind of self-explanatory. Don't suffer wound penalties becomes incredibly extreme due to other pieces of BNS mechanic. For example, one of the wound penalties is that you could be staked when you reach incapacitated health level. If you couldn't be targeted by that because that is a wound penalty, there is an ambiguity of how that ruling would be. So definitely talk to your local storyteller and how they would kind of presume that would work. Even though staking is incredibly hard in BNS and almost never occurs, this would kind of be a mitigator of that. Now, metal. Every time you take aggravated damage, you can convert 1 ag to a normal damage. Now, while that seems kind of like, oh, okay, level 2, pleasant enough, whatever, it is more you have to think you're going to be rarely hit with aggravated damage that is in excessive amounts. Firearm aggravated damage really only is kind of Dragon's Breath rounds or like flare guns. And neither one of those, without an exceptional, is going to be an incredible amount of damage. Even the Dragon's Breath is not going to be more than 3. So you're going to be taking a lot of that away. When it gets to up-close attacks and things like that, it gets a little higher. But just note that it's taking away 1. We have a question here. Are these based on dot numbers? Can you elaborate a little, Carla, on what you mean by dot numbers? Boop, boop, boop. Trying to... Yeah, I can't imagine where that is going. But with our little bit of delay, we can actually see what she's saying. Well, while she is compiling that question, I'm going to go back to the original part, and when she has the full question kind of compiled, we'll go back and answer that, okay? Just, I know the delay's long, and I don't want people to have to wait too long. Now, Now we're at resilience. Resilience lets you ignore 1 point of normal damage. This can stack with other powers that convert damage eggs to normal. For example, if you take 1 aggravated damage, it can make the ag into a normal and then the normal into nothing. If you're in that kind of scenario, you're not even taking that 1 ag. It can become each bullet point based on a higher level. Yes. So every time we have a bullet, we're talking about a different level. So endurance is level 1, metal is level 2, resilience is level 3. Okay? That's really all resilience does. It lets you convert down. Now, resistance lets you convert 1 ag to a normal. This is identical to metal, it just adds 2. So, at resistance, you're converting 2 ags to normal. One of those normals is being converted to nothing. Okay? Now we get to Aegis. Aegis is going to be the simple, I take damage, I ignore 1, it's added resilience, so I ignore 2. So this lets me either ignore 2 ag and 2 normal every strike. So pretty much a person who does not have a supernatural power or does not hit you with an exceptional success, you are going to win and be immune to every challenge. Because even if you lose, it doesn't matter. So you can walk right up to a stack of gun-toting SWAT guys. If you have 15 traits, you have 11 traits, you have more traits than a human could easily accomplish. Even if you lose, they can't exception you. You're going to be strong on the take, and you're essentially immune to all that kind of damage. This level of fortitude is a little bit harder to kind of hold and obtain for a lot of clans. There's only 2 clans in the Camarilla that has fortitude. It's Gangrel and Ventrue. So you got to hope if you aren't in good with one of those 2, you find it from a friend, but note that that's kind of where that goes. Next, Obfuscate. And as you're going to notice, the text in here is going to start getting bigger and bigger because some of these powers get more and more confusing. Now, animals automatically can break through Obfuscate if a person has a beast trait. Now, when I say break through, it doesn't mean Lassie knows exactly where you are and can go tell its master. It means that it knows you're in the area without a test and has a general concept of an area that you're at. If you keep moving, it'll keep getting confused, but the basic idea is you can't sneak past the attack dog if you have Obfuscate and you have a beast trait. Now, anyone with Auspex can attempt to do a mental plus investigation versus your mental versus willpower or your mental plus a stealth. You got to be in a special scenario to want to be using your mental plus stealth at the start of a game. You're going to be having your 6 willpower, and that's going to give you a lot greater resistance against most of the things. The stealth is going to come into play after you've spent a few willpower, and you're still going to be able to maintain that all night. Now, no effect on machines. Nosferatu have a merit that lets them do this, and it almost becomes a clan recognizable that you can tell that a person's a Nosferatu if they're ever using Obfuscate that's immune to machines. Now, the user of the machine cannot be in line of sight. So if I have a video camera and I pick it up and look at you, I am going to intentionally look away with that camera from you. I'm not going to notice it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to gradually move away. But now, let's say you're watching security cam footage from home over the internet. You're going to see it every single time without a question. Okay? Now on to the powers. Conceal. A simple action can conceal an object or weapon no larger than 3 feet. This is the approximate amount of a gun. You're not going to be having super sniper rifles that you're going to be concealing into anything else, but you can easily make a handgun into a laptop. You can make a holdout pistol into a wallet. These are very easy kind of transfer things you can do. Now, you can use it on up to 3 objects so long as they're on your personage. You can not only conceal the object, you can only conceal the object but not negative space. You can hide a chair, but you can't hide a doorway. Now, the most common simple use for this is you're able to walk into Elysium and make non-concealable weapons concealable. Most storytellers are never going to take the effort to think about exactly the length of every single gun you have. As long as you're not walking in with a rocket launcher, they're going to have a fair concept of you can put it in the pocket, you can use a smaller card that's easier to see, easier to hide. It's presumed you have those things concealed until someone tries to break through it with Auspex. If you have the focus, you can conceal 10 objects at a time. Remembering the numbers of stronger play for a storyteller to kick onto, they're not going to worry about the measurement of every gun. Now, we're going to go to Unseen Presence. With a standard action, you become invisible. This may only be used on yourself. If you have the wits, you may speak in a low voice or interact with an unintended object without breaking Unseen Presence. Most storytellers will allow you to do tests as long as the person you are testing is an inanimate object. You want to pick a lock while you're invisible, everyone's going to be cool with that. You want to put down a bomb, you want to do stuff like that, that's normally not going to be a problem. The moment you start trying to pull a chair out from someone else or things like that where other people will oppose is where most people are going to stop and say Unseen Presence has gone too far. Now, there is no base surprise mechanic in BNS, but Assamites have a special merit called Surprise Attack. So, you're not getting anything from hopping out of invisibility to attack someone unless you're an Assamite. I kind of wish they would have given you at least a 1 or 2 trait bonus for the start and given Assamites that hop out a retest or something, but we're in the situation that we're in. Now, Mask of 1,000 Faces. A lot of people play this wrong. Storytellers ignore that it's played wrong all the time, just for the aspect of just moving the game forward. So, use a standard action to become invisible. Oh, sorry, wrong. Expend a simple action, change all sensory aspects of your appearance. You are invisible, cannot be smelled, and cannot be heard. You must be unobserved. This will also mimic anything that generally matches your current form. So, the idea is you have now the illusion of something else on you. Now, everyone's like saying, oh, Patrick, every storyteller does that. Everyone sees that all the time. You have the NOS walk in every single moment. It's the focus everyone ignores. The focus is you can dramatically change the appearance of your wardrobe and equipment. Make a cell phone look like a shotgun. Make a hoodie look like jeans and a ball gown. Now, here's the issue. I don't believe I've gone through a season where a Nosferatu or a Sabbat member or someone else with Obfuscate, an Assamites particularly, looks like one particular person, walks into another room, changes their appearance, and walks back. And then everyone has to go for, wait a minute, they're wearing the exact same clothing, just with some slight color differences. I cannot go from I am a trench coat wearing detective to I am the Torador Primogen with a wonderful ball gown and everything else going. You need the focus to do that. And every time you see someone hopping identities like that, if they already aren't generically wearing the simple black suit that's handed out to every vampire at their embrace, there is a strong precedent that you can say that they are unable to look like the other person. Now, vanish from the mind's eye. This allows you to become invisible in front of everyone. This is the combat invisibility. You make a pose challenge to vanish from plain sight. If it's used against multiple witnesses, each test is an individual. PCs with heightened senses cannot pierce any of your obfuscate powers, but without also having the 5th dot of Auspex. An observer cannot contest any other uses of Vanish the Mind's Eye, Mask of 1,000, Conceal Unseen Presence for an hour, and that's if you have an exceptional success. The focus is you can retest once without spending your willpower. Now, Vanish from the Mind's Eye, especially when you have your brand new character, everyone forgets Unseen Presence doesn't work when they're looking at you. Even to the point that I have forgotten this even in the middle of combats. I'm playing a new guy, playing an NPC, and I don't realize I don't have 4. I've gone, oh, I'll just be invisible, no one's noticing, I'm doing great. Vanish from the Mind's Eye is the only ability to become invisible really when anyone around can possibly see you. If you want to do the others, you're walking away, getting out of complete line of sight, and coming back. It's really important to note that. Now, if you just pick up your arms in the middle of a room and you have vanished from the mind's eye, no one challenges you, yes, absolutely, you are invisible. If they want to be like, hey, I'm breaking that, feel free. Because they need Aspects 5 to even test. Okay? Now, Cloak of the Gathering. There's a lot of questions people have about Cloak of the Gathering, so let's just kind of put this down at the beginning. You extend the range of an unseen presence, Mask of 1,000 Faces, or Vanish from the Mind's Eye, to a number of willing individuals equal to your dots in stealth, minimum to yourself, and if you have the focus, you could extend this twice your skill level. So if I'm a skill 5 person, myself and 10 other people, I can all make look like a Sabbat pack. I could all make look like other things. Now, one of the questions people have is about stacking cloaks. If you break your obfuscate, can I have my obfuscate cover yours at that moment? First, no matter what is done, if someone does the action to break, it's going to break. Okay, now we have a question. Unseen presence is the only ones looking can still see you. Right, but we're saying line of sight. That is line of sight, Harry. So if people have line of sight when you're doing unseen presence, they see you. If you want to activate it, you have to leave line of sight. Okay, back to Cloak of the Gathering. So you can't stack on top stuff. Like, I can't Mask of Cloak of the Gathering, shoot a guy, have a person on the initiative essentially try to conceal me. Mechanically, it's probably likely. What you want to be able to do, though, is at least say someone can only be obfuscated or unobfuscated at once a turn. People's minds don't react that fast. It really should kind of be an errata just on that. Now, you can also vanish with the mind's eye people that you are just like, let's say, you knocked a guy in torpor. It's completely fine to vanish from the mind's eye that guy in torpor, and his buddies can't drag him out. That's another kind of great win for Cloak of the Gathering. Mask of 1,000 Faces, we already talked about. You walk in as a Sabbat pack. The Malkavian aspect, especially if you're a classic Dominate Malkavian, you all walk in, make a memory of a particular thing because they all saw it. Dominate the person, and they're going to believe they're dominated by that other guy, and that makes for a lot of great hijinks. Now, we're going to go on to the next power, Serpentis. Yep, the font's small. It's you need little sneaky eyes to see it. Now, Serpentis is a lot like other powers, but it has different limitations for each one, and we're going to kind of show how it expands in each setup. Now, Eyes of the Serpent is an incredibly specialized command from Dominate. While I look at the target, I can do my test. If I win, they are paralyzed as long as I hold gaze. Breaking that eye contact or utilizing any other power, or if the target is attacked, injured, or targeted by hostile powers, the hypnotic spell breaks. With an exceptional success, the process lasts for 3 rounds after contact is broken, so long as the target is not attacked, injured, or targeted by aggressive power. With a focus appearance, you can use other powers while holding your target paralyzed. It still breaks if your target is attacked, injured, or regardless. Now, if you don't have the focus, the easiest way for the allies of the guy you just froze to stop you is hit you with awe. It's going to drag your keys away, guy can't see your eyes, it's done. But if you're in like some magical world where you're at a game that is not properly doing can caps at all, they're allowing multiple setites, they're allowing all this other crazy. 2 setites with high mental or social traits can absolutely completely paralyze a target because of the multi-round action. Here's how you do it. You got 2 setites and their random pawn. Setite number 1 is going to freeze their target. Random pawn is going to strike the guy. Setite number 2 is going to freeze the target in their turn of initiative. All they need to do is make sure these 3 actions occur before the other person's initiative. If you focus on that, the person, and everyone's winning tests, of course. You gotta obviously win some tests. This isn't just instantaneous. But it allows you, with a group of tests, to completely paralyze aggression back at you. And against incredibly aggressives, instead of incredibly defensive, that's very powerful. Now, why is this in the defense category, you're asking, Patrick? Because of the 3-round break, it should be just about enough time to do fair escape. The fair escape mechanic, if you freeze the guy, you can turn and run with the focus, and you will be at fair escape before they can actually initiate aggression. Now, Tongue of the Asp. Tongue of the Asp is a low-level animalism speaking to animals, but you only can speak to snakes. It also is a low-level auspex for you to be able to see through obtenebrate and shadows. So let's kind of go through the description here. Spend 1 blood to activate for your simple action. While active, your tongue is forked, and you may speak to snakes or an individual in their serpent form. It is nearly silent. Only individuals with heightened senses or similar power merit could hear it. It's almost like Mapalmony. You can also sense your surroundings perfectly, even in the depths of night or in unnatural darkness such as caused by obtenebration. And if you have the focus charisma, you may gain a +1 bonus on any test based on the sound of your voice, including persuasion-related skills and presence power such as entrancement, assuming you speak to reinforce the use of your power. Now, Tongue of the Asp, you can initiate. It doesn't really seem to imply when the power turns off. So you can just leave it running. As long as not a lot of people can see it, you kind of speak with a little bit of closed teeth, you always can get that bonus. You always can speak to anyone else who has Serpentis, because it's kind of implied that I can vibrate and hear the answers too. You also can speak to allied snakes. So you get those retainers, you're like, hey, I didn't say anything, and the snakes come and attack people. Doesn't let you lie any particularly better or kind of break any aspect of kind of communication, but it does allow you to get this bonus kind of thing. Persuasion is kind of vague. Non-power-based tests are all like the discrimination of each storyteller, because there seems to be a precedent for it, but they don't give you any examples of when a power would be needed versus a non-power. Okay, so now let's go to Skin of the Adder. Now, Skin of the Adder, you spend 1 point in a standard action to invoke. You now have defensive scales and become incredibly flexible. You have +2 to dodge-based defense pools. You also can bite without first needing to grapple. This cannot be combined with other transformative powers. This is absolutely a breach of the masquerade. And if you have focus, you're +3 on dodge-based test pools, as well as a +1 to brawl when attempting to bite opponent. So now you're at, you're only at 3. It's not +3 to add to 5. Now, +3 on dodge-based pools is pretty amazing. You buy even 3 or 4 dodge, you rack up some traits, it's going to let you tip over the edge in ways that you would not be able to do. Now, the defensive is really important. Now, you're allowed to speak absolutely normally. This is one of the few transformative powers that is not stopping communication. So, walk around in Skin of the Adder with Mask of 1,000 going, no one's going to give you guff. Because it's not like you're breaking the masquerade, it's not like you're breaking the silence of the blood, not like you're doing anything problematic. When you need the combat, it's already there for you. Now, and Bite without grapple is amazing. You could drink Immortal instantly, you can cause aggravated damage to a guy right away without having to have wolf claws. It's a real solid power to give you just enough guff to give you that defense. Now, 1 second, I may have missed this. What clan has this? Oh! Followers of Set have this clan, have this power, Carla, the power of Serpentis. Now, Form of the Cobra. Form of the Cobra is very similar to Protean's transform into different animals, but you only can transform into one animal, a snake. Now, a lot of people forget the idea that the snake is 15 feet long. This is the largest snake you've probably ever seen, even on television. It is a huge, huge snake. And by that concept, even if you say that you're all curled up, people realistically should be able to hit you from a larger range in melee. You're not really going to be able to avoid the melee kind of scenario. You can't be grappled, so that kind of takes the nature of people ever trying to bite you. And you can bite your foes without needing grapple. This causes aggravated damage, easy peasy, without you having to worry about your grapple traits. Not being grappled is kind of the big bonus here. Now, your bite is venomous. So, every living creature is going to be pretty much dead in a matter of turns, because a 15 trait poison, which is what this is categorized as, a toxin, is going to take out mortals in a heartbeat. How it affects werewolves and how it affects other things you're going to want to deal with your storyteller, but it is a very strong, you don't want to get near me, stay back. Now, if you have the focus, you can become smaller or larger. If you're becoming larger, you're inhuman, you're talking Naga level kind of were creature thing. But if you're smaller, you're allowed to be to the point you can now finally truly escape. Down a drain, skid on the edge of a wall. This is the kind of moment to kind of fair escape away to. So you notice we have a few fair escape away powers, and we have just enough to be aggressive. If you want to kind of do it, I feel the defense is a little bit more powerful in this than the aggression. Now, Heart of Darkness, the one power that is unlike anything else. Heart of Darkness allows you to remove your heart or another person's heart. You can only do one a month during the new moon. And if you have the charisma, you can do it anytime. And you can do it on willing targets, as long as they're in torpor. If you don't have that, they kind of have to be willing or staked. Oh no, I guess you have to have the focus to do it, even if they're staked. But it's very complicated. You can't be dominated to do it. Now, people are saying, well, I got all these hearts, especially if you have the focus. If you have the focus, you're going to gather a bunch of people's hearts, and the number one thing you should do is go buy a haven that you're never going to use and you're never going to be tracked to. Okay? When you finally have this haven you're never going to be tracked to and you're never going to go to after this moment or two, you're going to get one of these new fancy LG stoves. And you're going to fill it with all the hearts of the people you don't like. And then you're going to get a little guy with computer 1, someone who you're maybe ripped the heart out of, or someone else. It shouldn't be very difficult because I can do this and I don't think I have computers like 5. And you're going to set up a little thing of, if you don't do an if then that, your stove is going to turn on at a cleaning roast kind of level, and all the hearts that are in there are going to kill. So at that moment, if people don't want to die, they're going to be in a scenario where they're all going to die if they don't back you up. So having that kill switch on you at all times, that if you just don't reply with a certain code to a certain number that no one really knows about, to a certain location that you haven't been to since you dropped the hearts off, is going to make it where you're incredibly dangerous, but they don't want to kill you. It's all about that defense. If I have your heart, you want to get it back. But if you do some wily tricks, you're like, oh well, you've been trying to get your heart back so much, so of it on time, that guy dies too. Okay, so LG automatic foam-based ovens, big win. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is our first support one, animalism. Now, there's been some silly jokes going around lately that animalism is the most powerful power because of the Disney kind of creatures that can somehow tell you where everyone's haven is. The power of animalism all will go down to the energy that your storyteller wants to put in it and what they actually believe animals can realistically do. Because you get someone who is an anthropologist and they love doing animals all day long, animalism is going to be way better than the guy who wants to pave the world and hasn't seen any animal really outside of a pet store. Now, on the other side of this, as the player, how do you encourage your storyteller to really let you use animalism well? You make it entertaining for them. Don't commonly do, oh, I asked the rat to tell me about that conversation. That doesn't happen. That doesn't work. But if you go through and you're like, hey, I've made this relationship with Jimmy the Snitch. He's a little rat, and I've been feeding him all this cheese, and I'm trying to have him track this one guy home. So I put a piece of cheese in that guy's pocket. So now can Jimmy the Snitch go and find that guy's haven? Almost every storyteller is going to support strong role play, strong push of a previous idea, showing investment into the scenario. Anyone who goes to them and says, oh, just give me this data for free, is either going to be dealing with a lazy storyteller or a person who just doesn't want to do a story. Okay, now let's go through the powers. Feral Whispers. You can communicate with animals by murmuring to them in growls and using body language. This makes a noise. The storyteller acts if the animal sees you as a predator. Animals will only respond if they know or care about things. And they know or care about. Like, I can't be like, hey, go tell me who the Primogen is. He doesn't know who the Primogen is. He doesn't care who the Primogen is. You'd be like, hey, tell me about the guy who has the smelliest perfume. He's going to be like, oh, okay, I know who the smelly perfume guy is. Now, if you have the focus, you do not need to growl or gesture. Your beast inside of you can communicate directly with the minds of nearby animals. However, you still must be visible to the animal you're communicating with. You can receive mental images from any situation the animal attempts to describe. That's the point where you can be like, hey, show me the guys in the room. Oh, that is person's the Primogen. Now, there is a thing that a lot of storytellers do. I do it. There is no aspect in here where it says you can communicate with other vampires who have feral whispers. The basic belief of it is that if I can communicate to an animal and you can communicate to an animal, we can communicate as an animal. And the fact that it has to be audible unless they have the focus makes it kind of in the realm of a poor man's secret language. No storyteller has to approve that. The letter of the law is that does not exist. So think about that before you walk into a game as your gangrel and start instantly howling to your buddies and they all understand. Now, beckoning. This is calling animals to you. Now, it is a 1 blood plus use your standard action to summon up to 5 small animals, 3 medium animals, or 1 large animal. You determine the type and size of the animals. Summoning local common animals will take less time and have more chances of success than rare and unusual animals. The power will confer no special abilities, intelligence, or courage to the animal summoned. Summoned animals consider you the alpha of their breed. When used with feral whispers, beckoned animals will attempt to obey your requests. They will work for you until dawn or until they take damage equal to their NPC rating. You can summon your Gould animals if they're the only... you summon your Gould animals if they're the only type around. Now, here's I'm going to kind of interrupt it. Well, let me just tell the whole power. You can use this power if it's already... You cannot use this power if it's already active unless you're trying to refresh animals that have fallen. You cannot overwrite another person's animals. You can spend 1 blood point when you're sleeping to have the animals guard you during the day. If you have a focus, you may add following unique modifiers to your summoned creatures: unusual movement, they can swim or fly; cunning, they can understand complex instructions; swarm, there's large numbers of small animals; swarms can't be insects. Now, let's say I've spent a whole bunch of retainer points and I have a Gould mountain lion named Tabby. And my Gould mountain lion Tabby doesn't know I need help. I would then trigger beckoning mountain lion, knowing there's no mountain lions in the middle of the city, but Tabby is in the back seat of the car, and Tabby's gonna flick that door handle until she gets out and run to my aid. So, making a point to have retainers that are unique animals outside of your zone is going to let you trigger and pull those people that you already know their powers and their abilities. Now, this NPC rating is pretty much the level equal, like it's 1 for small animals, 2 for mediums, and 3 for large. You might be lucky and you might get a storyteller kind of doing something special. This, again, has a lot of storyteller pieces. Are they going to say, oh, yeah, there's alligators in the sewer that are out to help you? Or you're going to have another scenario where they'll be like, well, I want to get some birds, and they're going to send you the silly parrots of Pasadena. You got to think that a lot of issues can occur with this, and again, it's very storyteller what's there and what they want to take the effort to run. Now, Quell the Beast. 1 blood, expend a standard action, and do an opposed challenge. If the target was in frenzy when this power was successfully used, they immediately fall out of frenzy. If they were not in frenzy, they become incapable of entering. Actually, because we just started Quell the Beast, we just had a question. So let's hop into this question here. Okay. How does beckoning work if I'm obfuscated when I use it? Like in the middle of a monomacy, in the middle of a flight for Manish the Fies, I work, could I talk to my animal? Pharaoh whispers, focus while obfuscated. Okay. You could not summon the animals while obfuscated because that is a full initiation of a power. You could probably, however, initiate communicating to the animal if you had the focus where you can receive mental images. Second, if you had the obfuscate focus where you're able to whisper, I would also probably say then you actually probably could do beckoning. You could summon someone by beckoning them with the whisper, and that would be acceptable. So as long as you have some focuses between the two, most people would allow you to kind of mix those together. Okay, let's hop back to the power. Quell the Beast. 1 blood, expend a standard action on an opposed challenge. If the target was in frenzy when the power was successfully used, they immediately fall out of frenzy. If they are not in frenzy, then it becomes incapable of entering frenzy for the next hour. Furthermore, their willpower is sapped and must spend 2 willpower to retest the challenge for the remainder of this turn and for the full next turn. Exceptional success, the willpower sapping effect with Quell the Beast lasts for the rest of the turn and for the next 2 hours. Full 2 turns rather than 1. If you have the focus, instead of spending willpower to retest, the victim is unable to use willpower retest for the duration of the power. Now, the reason it's such a support power is stopping retests overwhelms targets. The moment that a guy's getting gunned down, if you just go, quell, quell, and you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to stop him out of frenzy, you're doing it to make it they can't retest. Everyone from old editions, everyone who's kind of beginning to read animals the first time, they're like, that ain't so good. Stopping retest is golden. Anything that removes agency is amazing. You are stopping the player's ability to choose to retest. And that is an amazing level 3. Okay? Now, it also has no aspect of saying that they can tell you've done it. It almost implies it's like a presence. So yes, they might be able to pull you on awareness, but then get a few subterfuges hanging around. Just do it in the middle of the court when you know some guy's about to be dominated. Hey, we're going to test you to see if you're loyal to the sect, and I'm going to with Quell the Beast first, so you don't get to retest any of the aspects of us dominating these truths out of you. So, kind of think about throwing it around a little bit more than you might have. Now, subsume the spirit. You transfer your consciousness into a target animal's body. Your mind goes in the body. Its mind goes into the body, but is rendered into a fugue-like torpor state. Only normal and ghoul animals can be targeted with subsume the spirit. Normal animals will have no disciplines, and you cannot spend blood. Ghoul animals will have a limited range of bonus powers. Subsume the spirit lasts until the next sunrise or until you spend a simple action for your character to leave the animal and awaken. Subsume the spirit ends immediately if the character travels more than 10 miles from their body, or if the person's native body takes damage, or if the animal they're controlling takes damage. Animals who do not take damage from sunlight, even if when controlled by a vampire. However, a vampire's beast still risks frenzy. Focus. You can use the first 2 dots of mental and social disciplines while employing the subsume the spirit. If you are controlling a ghoul animal, that you can spend up to 5 blood to fuel these in-clan disciplines at the rate of 1 blood a turn, regardless of the character's generation. Now, this is basically dominate possession for animals. Before we get on to key choices, I want to also bring up the nature of the ghouling, because this is kind of one of those razor edge questions. I have a ghoul animal, and I make sure the ghoul animal gets taught fortitude, or potence, or celerity. I have that as my retainer trait, and I now possess the animal. Most people are going to presume that I'm going to then be able to use the physical disciplines that the animal still has. In BNS, they're only getting 1 physical discipline, but that might get a little higher, might get a little lower. Consult with your storytellers if they believe that's the case. It's kind of a noteworthy thing to think about. Now let's talk about key choices for animals. Talking birds is great. You don't like the idea of sending a message by someone else? Go send it yourself. Jump in a parrot, fly to the guy, tell him the message, head out. Large apes in trench coats, maybe with a little bit of obfuscate, allows you to make sure that you're not going to die because you're not there. It also will let you get a few hits in before you take the 1 damage and pop out. Same thing with bears. Ugh. Mountain lions are great for combat, and owls are also great for reconnaissance. Now, the key disciplines to use in my mind that are mental and social, that a common person with animalism is going to have, is obfuscate and auspex. You can hide while you're this animal form, so no one's going to call the pet control kind of thing on you. And auspex is going to make an eagle's eyes 1,000,000 times better than that, so you should be able to see from almost the range of the power. Now, the last power in animalism is called drawing out the beast. Drawing out the beast allows you to spend blood and do a simple action to either immediately fall out of or fall into a frenzy. With a focus of manipulation, you can use drawing out the beast to enter a frenzy even if you would otherwise be unable to do so, such as when affected by powers such as Quell the Beast. Additionally, while in Rage Frenzy, your character will see +3 bonus on all physical test pools instead of the standard 1 bonus. Your character still suffers the -2 penalty for physical defense pools while in Frenzy. Now, here's where the debate comes into play, and it's a very, very kind of strong debate. Let's say you're going to dominate me. And dominate, it's great power. You tell me I hate you, and you're going to lie down while I get some guys to rough you up. Or take a nap, because I have to say something you're not going to get hurt by. I don't want to be dominated. I have a higher initiative. I'm going to initiate drawing out the beast before the dominate lands. Words have begun to be spoken. I feel it's going to be a dominate because I'm faster initiative. I'm quicker on the draw. Poof, I'm in frenzy. I take 3 steps. I spend another blood. I'm out of frenzy. This will essentially let you be immune to a majority of mental and social powers straight out. I know that there is an Nosferatu here who I need to kill. Pop. In frenzy. I'm no longer sensing him with my rational mind. I'm sensing him with my beast's mind. I smell him just like an animal and start raging. I want to go kill the prince who has majesty. I am going to act this. I can walk right past the majesty in frenzy, wait for him to hit me, drop the frenzy, and I can now do all my other powers and other initiatives since he's now aggressed. So think about it a lot. This will allow you to hop back and forth between powers very easily, making sure you can't be affected. Now, Auspex. First part of it is breaking through illusions. You can break Obfuscate and Chemistry if you win a Mental plus Investigation. The Mental plus Investigation versus Obfuscate is plus Stealth, and versus Chemistry is plus Subterfuge. Heightened Senses. If you can tell people are near you, you're like, hey, someone's right behind me. You can blind fight with just your hearing. You can spend a blood point to search an entire room for hidden items without taking pretty much any time. If you have more aspects than the person has a supernatural illusion, and you win the test, you're immune to an hour from all their illusions instead of just 5 minutes. If you have an exceptional success, it acts as if you're one level higher than you actually have aspects. Now focus, it makes it a simple versus a standard action. Now the classic reason is, why is that so important? It really comes down to Assamites. Assamite dude is jumping out of obfuscate to attack me. He strikes with his standard action. I say, blah, 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 I win initiative, I'm going to use my simple. On my simple, I see who you are and I shoot first. This is the classic kind of Han shot first kind of action here. Now, the listen in thumb. There is no description in the basic book of the classic thing of, I can hear perfectly well, why can't I go listen in on that conversation that I cannot physically hear out of character? Why they didn't put the listen in thumb, I don't know. They already had a lot in this discipline. Everyone from the old MET days is going to be knowing the listen in thumb of, oh, what are you saying over there? Oh, I'm not here, I'm 20 feet away. So, theoretically, letter of the law, talk to your storyteller before you decide to jump into, I can listen in with the thumb. Now, aura perception. We have 1 blood point plus a standard test, a standard action. Do a test against a target. You can read the target's aura. If you have an exceptional success, you can see their aura without a test for an hour. If they start to fight, you get your simple before them. If you have the focus and you're really close to them, it doesn't even cost you a blood point. Now, what can you learn from an aura? You can learn supernatural type, mood, if they're thinking about violence and if they've diablerized in a year. You cannot know if they're lying. Old aura perception, it was #1 use. Everyone's like, are you lying? Are you a bad guy? Do you not trust me? Whatever. You failed the test. All your secrets are out. They threw that out the window. It was too kind of powerful. Aspects has already been kind of an overused ability. Kind of kept it to there. Now, spirit touch. You're allowed to learn about emotions of the past, emotions that are held in the item. For 1 blood point in a standard action, you can ask 1 question, and for if you wait 5 more minutes, you can ask another question. The focus is if you do the focus, you have 3 questions versus 1. Now, here's what the questions are. Who handled the object last in a noteworthy way? If you're touching a corpse, how did this person die? The next one is, when or how was the object last used? Like, if I see a gun, was it shot last or did someone just pistol whip somebody? And the next one is, is there any strong emotions attached to the object? Oh, it's this person's grandmother's necklace. They've cared about it for years. Okay? It is a great way to funnel plot to players, and storytellers love the opportunity for you to give them a way to give you some plot. Now, telepathy. With 1 blood point, you can essentially mentally speak to other people at about a 50-mile radius. Unwilling targets also will take a test and line of sight. You can't use other powers with telepathy. They don't know right away who the telepath is. If you have an exceptional success, you can ask 2 questions. And if you have the focus, you can have 3 people in the conversation versus 1. Now, we did have a question here I'm going to like to answer about Spirit's Touch before we go any farther. Now, it says, I've always found Spirit Touch not very useful unless you're dealing with the body. Now, the key aspects for Spirit Touch is really when you're dealing with NPC actions. The hidden note from the bad guy is going to pull you up something from Spirit Touch. If you find the Valderie Chalice after you've raided the Sabbat Haven, you're going to know where some of them have ran off to. The connections like that, it's all plot connective. If you find that you're not getting very useful connections with your Spirit Touch, it again goes down to the aspect of storytellers don't want to be cheesed. Think of an imaginative question or an imaginative way to ask it, and they're going to be entertained enough normally to give you more data. Okay? Now, back on telepathy. Now, the questions you can ask on telepathy is, what are you currently thinking about? What does the person or thing you just described look like? Where is the person or object you were just talking about located? Do you like or dislike the person you're currently talking to? And what are you planning to do in the next few minutes? Now, all of these are grand, all of these are nice, there's random uses for all of them. But the biggest number one thing is, I ask you, are you lying? And then I can say, what are you currently thinking about? If they're thinking about lying, they probably are. If they're not thinking about lying, and there's not a storyteller saying they have super levels of subterfuge, or they're a member of the Black Hand with art of memory, and they've been able to contain their thoughts so well, this is the closest you're going to get to a BNS truth detector. Okay? But you're never going to know without asking. I can't just walk up and go, hey, is that a lie? No, I have to vocally say, are you lying? Then try to find out if their intention is to lie on the memory. Now, psychic projection. One blood point in a standard action, you can leave your body. If you're hurt at all, you instantly return. This is a great, like, escape shoot. You have a friend there, things have changed, they break your toe, poof, you're back. You can move at 50 miles an hour. This is the fastest movement of any ability in the game. That you can just instantly start running to places, get around town, leave messages is really powerful. Now, you can only use aspects in this form. You cannot affect the real world. If you spend a blood point, you can become a ghost-like form, which can be seen and heard. You can fight someone else in astral projection. Every time you take a damage, you lose a willpower points. And if you have a focus, 2 levels of your in-clan mental or social powers can be used through the psychic projection. Now, what 2 powers is the big whammy? The first one is thaumaturgy. Go there with a little bit of lure of flames, it's an in-clan power, and burn people's havens in the middle of the day. Or just track them down because they can't fight back. A little bit of movement of mind. You can unlock a door from the inside. Dominate someone from where you're at. And you can obfuscate the aura. Now, someone brought up there's a chance to see the psychic projection if someone already has aspects. Absolutely true. The idea is you don't be near people. It's hard to do kind of in a LARP scenario, but you get the staffer and you're like, I'm going to be 40 feet from that guy. 40 feet is not going to trigger an aspects reading. You're not near them. You can still fly 50 miles an hour and move around faster than they're going to pretty much get anywhere outside of Los Angeles freeway. And you can then do a haven track. You can spy on information because you still also have your aspects. You have your heightened senses. So if you're psychically projecting, you can easily then still see much, much farther than you normally could. So remember to kind of combo that. If you're a Malkavian, you also can obfuscate the aura. Then people have to break an aspects test versus your obfuscate to even see the aura before you do other hijinks. Now, Protean. You need to have Eyes of the Beast of Protean to even see this crazy little font. But here's where we're at. Level 1, Eyes of the Beast, lets you spend a blood and do a simple action to activate. For the next hour, your eyes glow feral red. You can see perfectly, even in pitch darkness. You can fight in the darkness without needing to do a blind fighting combat maneuver. Now, if you have the focus, your Eyes of the Beast are always active, but they do not glow unless you choose to make them glow. It's a simple action, but no blood back and forth. So right here, Gangrel walking through the woods, you have the focus, you're always active, you're always seen, regardless of there being city lights. You're always able to kind of pop out that flare to just kind of scare mortals away who are susceptible, because it's not dread gaze, but guys glowing red eyes, I'm going to head out of there. Okay, now we're on Feral Claws. Feral Claws, you spend 1 blood point in a simple action. Your fingernails sharpened harden and lengthen to become clearly visible bestial claws. Slashing at a foe will cause aggravated damage. You may sheath your feral claws at any time by spending another simple action. You may use physical plus brawl versus the target's physical plus dodge to cause damage. If your claws break, you can regrow them by reactivating the power. With a focus, you can grow or sheath your claws at any time without spending the action. You also receive a +1 to your brawl attack test pool. Now, here is the big question. It says, if my claws break, I can regrow them by reactivating the power. It gives no categorization of what it would take to break a claw. You know, I have to, is it going to break on metal? Is it going to break on some guy with a lot of fortitude? Is it going to break if I try to climb up a cement wall? No concept of what we're told. Again, make your storyteller happy. They're going to make that a much more lenient ruling. Now we're going to go to Earth Meld. You spend 1 blood, you sink into the ground. You must be on Earth, not rock. It has to essentially be that you can pick it up with your hand. You now exist in a semi-solid form that cannot take actions or use any powers. While you're in the semi-conscious, you are still aware of your surroundings. When Earth melded, you are immune from anything that is on the surface. You have to be dug up for any issues. This means there's a forest fire up there. This means that trucks go by. Doesn't matter. You're essentially immune to damage. If a person tries to dig you up, it will take 3 standard actions before they can touch you. If they have tools, this might reduce the number of actions to disturb you. A vampire is ejected in full wakeness, immediately showering dirt in a wide radius. Now, focus is a perception focus. You can perceive the surroundings as if you were standing above the ground which you emerged. If you are asleep or voluntary in torpor, they awaken as soon as someone begins to disturb the soil of their resting place. So, what's really great about this is if you can find an Elysium, or there's a little bit of dirt in a courtyard or a garden or something, you can be sunk in there. No one's going to be able to register you right away, and you can still perceive if you have the focus. That's kind of the bigger win there. It also gives you an acting pretty much free haven. Someone wants to find me, I'm under the dirt. Nobody's going to find me. And it lets you fair escape fairly easily. Turn a corner, drop in the ground, someone runs by, they're going to think you obfuscated, they're going to think you flew away. Very few people think you jumped in the ground. Well, only a standard action, it's Johnny on the spot. Now, Shape of the Beast. There are so many caveats to this power. Let's get started. 1 blood in a standard action and transform into either a bat, which is considered a flight form, or a wolf, which is considered a fight form. It says both flight there, sorry, but oh no, it's fight. While in flight form, you gain +3 to your dodge-based defensive tests and can fly at your normal movement speed. Because you are small and bat-sized, your physical attribute is reduced to 3 for the purposes of physical attacks. Now, that's the run. It's, I fly out, I'm out of here, no problems. It's also, I can kind of spy on you, no one's going to really notice the bat right away. And someone shoots you, you're still going to have your full physical traits +3 to kind of get away. In fight form, you gain +2 bonus on your brawl-based attack test pools, and your brawling, biting, and clawing inflict aggravated damage. It's more, I feel that this is useful for preserving the masquerade. Your up 2 traits and a random wolf attacks a guy, it's going to be much less masquerade breaching than I hit the guy with my crazy wolf claw and it jacks him up. Now, if you have the focus, you may choose to be thematically different flight and fight forms. They still have to be predators or scavengers, meat eaters, they cannot be insects or herbivores, and must be animals that your character would logically have encountered in person. Once selected, you cannot alter them thereafter. You may apply one of the following templates appropriate to the animal: huge, vicious, fast, agile, or aquatic. They each have their own modifiers now. Flight form maintains the same bonuses as a standard power. Now, in Pillars of Salt, we have lots of the Gangrel merits translated, so you might be able to switch forms on the fly. You may be able to get an incredibly exotic form for a few points. Things like that kind of come into play. If you are not Gangrel, you need to have the focus to ever be something other than a wolf or a bat. No dinosaurs. No dinosaurs. Now, form of mist. You spend 1 blood in a standard action to transform into a cloud of mist. While in mist form, you cannot spend blood, talk, activate powers, or physically attack, but you are immune to physical attacks from sources other than fire and sunlight. You can be injured by non-physical attacks. For example, you might be harmed by flaming weapons such as a road flare. Incendiary ammunition, though, will pass through your form too quickly to inflict any damage. While you are in form of mist, you are semi-solid, fluctuating cloud. You can pass through cracks, holes, or any aperture that mist could normally transverse. You cannot pass through solid objects or airtight passages, nor can you travel through panes of glass, as you cannot condense. You also cannot fly, though you can travel along tilted or raised surfaces such as a wall. You take no damage from falling. While in form of mist, you can move or step. You have 1 step per simple action, or 2 steps per simple action if moving the same direction as the wind. Okay, yeah. If you're just moving normally, you're 1 step. If the wind's blowing that way, you get 2. You are effectively water vapor and do not have any tangible physical presence. You can be touched by anyone who passes their hand moving through your form, and may touch other individuals following the target's direction. This cannot be combined form of mist with other transformative powers. So you can't do like blood form of mist. If you have the focus while in form of mist, you can move 3 steps instead, regardless of the wind or any direction. Also, you may fly 3 steps as a simple action. If you have the focus, you're just going to fly straight up. Immunity to range damage, because it says that even aggravated guns aren't going to hurt you, is the goodbye. I spend my 1 action, I'm out of here, there's nothing that can possibly hurt me, I'm good to go. Okay. That was the last of the disciplines that are based on clans. We're going to have a much more condensed description of the bloodline powers for class 4, which is going to be discipline group number 3. Is there any questions people had on the last of these? I'm going to give a few moments for the Twitch to catch up, and if we don't have any of that, I will let people go for the night. But let's kind of give everyone an opportunity. Okay, got a question right here. For earth melt, count aspects, find them in the dirt. Do you need 3 dots of aspects to get an aura read to find them? Theoretically, let's hop to aspects just so we can be on the same page. Okay. If you have aura perception, you would have to kind of know where they are first. If you physically saw them go on the ground, sure, aura perception is going to be fine. You're not, though, going to be able just to walk around with aura perception in the middle of an empty field to find the guy. Because the idea with aura perception is I look at an individual place, I focus my perception, I can now see auras. I can't do a vista. That would take some type of elder power. Now, Spirit Touch, I think, is a great example. Oh, I have Survival 1, I'm going to find one of his tracks, I'm going to Spirit Touch it, take me right to the point where the tracks end. I'm going to then be able to grab the guy up with a Spirit Touch and make sure that he's under there. Now, Psychic Projection, you absolutely could fly through all the ground and find the part of this in the psychic world that's a little different. That's the way I presume you would want to run Earthmeld. Let's go back to see if there's any other questions. Elder powers and techniques. Are you asking if Elder powers and techniques can see through Earthmeld, or are you asking if we're going to have a class on Elder powers and techniques? So I'm still seeing me speak in the other window, so I know that I'm still active there. Oh, are there any Elder Powers that I think are particularly memorable? I'm actually going to probably do a class just on Elder Powers because there are lots of good ones and lots of really bad ones that definitely aren't worth your XP. Definitely wait for that kind of class to come about. I don't think that there's so much kind of data. I would kind of need to kind of research more for that. But I think that we are pretty much at the end point of the questions, and we're now at an hour and 6 minutes. So thank you all again. This has been for Pillars of Salt LARP. We have been discussing... We'll just go here. We've been discussing disciplines in BNS, and hopefully you've all enjoyed these classes. And we'll have our next class in another 2 weeks. Thank you very much, and have a great night.